morning, fellow campers and tabbers. It is March 1st, and we are heading to northern Arizona once again. It is currently 52 degrees at 7 o'clock here out in the desert southwest, and relatively humid for here, 75% when I got up this morning, so that was a little odd. Now, when I originally planned this trip, I was hoping for some pretty good weather up here, seeing as how we're starting to do this kind of up and down roller coaster bounce season where it gets a little warmer, a little cooler. And last weekend it would have been perfect. It was probably about 70-ish degrees up here with a nighttime low of somewhere around 50. And it looked like that was going to kind of hold. It was going to get a little cooler, but over the last few days checking the weather, they are saying it is supposed to drop. Now down here in the desert, we're supposed to get some 20 to 40 mile an hour winds coming in. It's going to be pretty nasty and dusty. Slightly north where I'm heading, it's probably going to be around the 20 to 30 mile an hour wind range. I really didn't want to cancel my trip, but I am a little concerned because my trailer is fully loaded with water. And now the weatherman is saying day one is going to be a high of 55 with a low of 30. That's not too bad. I've had that trailer down to about 29-ish at the low, but that was only for a couple hours at night. And why I'm concerned about day two is I don't want the plumbing in this trailer to freeze up and crack. Day two is forecasted for 45 degrees as a high with about 25 degrees as a low. Now, I'm almost positive that trailer will survive. I shouldn't have any ice freezing up my pipes or busting any of my drain valves on the trailer. And those are what concern me the most because they are the most exposed. So we'll see how that goes. I'm also curious to see how that lithium battery handles since it's still in the original spot outside in the battery box. Now, my battery has a built-in heater. I've never seen the heater kick on. So I'm curious to see if that happens. And also how the cold weather zaps the power out of that battery. But I've been really itching to head north, see some trees, a change of environment, so I didn't want to cancel this trip. So once again, I'm risking my life and my trailer for scientific research and testing purposes for y'all out there. But I'm sure we're going to be just fine. There's also a slight possibility, if we get some moisture in the area, there may be a light dusting of snow. So that'll be a first for me. But for right now, we're just going to meander north for about 4.5 more hours here. Just the typical desert drive, nothing too exciting. I'll probably bring you back through some of the mountain roads. Then I'm going to stop at one of my favorite lunch spots for the best pulled pork, green chili mac and cheese there is around. And right on cue, the headwinds kick in once again because I'm towing. You can see all the dust out there in the distance starting to build up. But almost nobody on the road today. So very relaxing. It does seem that maybe some of the snowbirds are starting to leave early. Passing through Quartzsite, the crowds have definitely started to lighten up a little bit, I can tell, especially out here in the middle of nowhere. But you can tell by that flag, the winds are pretty strong. Always exciting when I get to this point. Now it's time to climb up to 6,000 feet. It's only been about 4 months since I've been up here, but man, does it feel like forever. It has to be my favorite drive to do, especially when we get into the twisty hairpins. Now it's time to climb. You'll probably get a little rattling off the dash mount, unfortunately, but definitely 2 hands needed to do this drive. We're going to climb pretty quickly here. As far as the Tacoma goes for towing, I just set her in third and let her roll. one heck of a view there. Finally back in the trees. Slow going process. Nice and smooth is the key. It's always a pretty awesome overlook right here. Straight off the edge, 1,000 feet. Most of the time I'm just using third gear. Sometimes I'll have to drop it down in a second to slow the truck down, or get a little extra RPM coming up these hills. This is a pretty wild road. Alright, we reached our final cruising altitude of 6,100 feet, and now it's time to get something to eat. What is pretty funny is if I leave before the sunrise in the spring and the fall time, and I leave a 200-foot level elevation, by the time I get up here to 6,000, the temperature hasn't changed. So I left about 55 degrees, it's 53 degrees up here right now at 11 o'clock. Oh man, I'll tell you what, I missed that. Great salad and an absolutely amazing green chili pulled pork, macaroni and cheese. Awesome. Now it's time to hit a grocery store. I need to try to figure out what I'm going to cook tonight. It might get pretty windy, so I need to make something that's easy to cook and clean up inside the trailer if it gets windy. All right, now time to head to camp. Now I have stayed at this campground many times, and it's kind of one of my favorites. It's close to town, and I can usually get into it. But I have kind of a weird spot for the trailer. It's going to be a little bit tricky to back this thing in today, I think. Alright, here's what makes this tricky. This spot is at a dead end, at the end of the campground, and I have to kind of pull forward and around and then back in. Had somebody parked in my sight. I had to wait for them to move real quick, but they were nice, so that was cool. But man, there are a lot of people here for this time of year right now. This isn't typical. Alright, we're going to make a second attempt on landing this craft here. And they parked right where I need to be to back up, darn it. Okay, so here's what we have to do. We got to straighten out here. To come down, we got to come around this bend and then back this thing into there because the road's closed here. We're getting there. Now I have to get this trailer to brake to the passenger side here carefully and back into the site. Alright, I'm going to get out and take a look. Alright, we should be pretty clear on that. better to get out and take a look, make sure there's no low-lying branches or something behind us or rocks down on the ground. It gets pretty difficult to do these tight bends and turns, and that's why I am thankful that I have this trailer. It is a lot easier to manipulate and move compared to maybe a bigger one, for sure. I'm going to give her one more forward pull here. So not too bad, only 2 slight forwards to kind of get this safely cocked around here. That backup camera does help out a lot, I'll tell you what. Now we got to get it straightened out. We're going to reel her on in here. Looks like we're clear over here on the driver's side. We're getting close here. Alright, let's take a look and check our level. Yeah, plenty of room. But what I like to do is, something I picked up from my tent camping days, is make sure I am not under any giant limbs or dead looking trees, and that way they don't fall and kill you in the middle of the night when you're sleeping, especially when it's windy out like it's supposed to be. The first camping trip or two, I did have a couple pine cones that came bouncing down off the roof. Luckily it didn't dent anything, so always good to keep in mind is what is above you too. Not a bad little spot. It's pretty open and it's flat. And right now, all this section back here is closed off for the season. So I'm the last person at the end of the loop here, all by myself. I think we're looking pretty close on the level. Close enough anyway. I won't need a block for that. Alright, time to get her all unhitched here. It is pretty breezy. I can hear it up in the trees. I didn't pick up any firewood tonight for that reason. Everything's pretty dry out here. We didn't get much snow or rain up north, so probably not a good idea to have a campfire tonight. I know there's quite a few people that have asked about setup and breakdown on this trailer, and I'll just kind of go through a quick setup procedure right now for you. I keep just about everything I need in these boxes up front. It makes it pretty handy. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lay out my wheel chocks here. I like to keep my wheel in here, and I also use one of these to set that jack wheel in, so this trailer has another point that it's not going to go rolling around anywhere. And because it was a pretty gusty, windy day, I had the friction sway control on here, so I have to take that off next. Pull one side at a time, and I put my pin back in it. So just to show you, that's how loose this should be when it's not in need. You only need like a crank or maybe a crank and a half just to give this thing enough friction so it doesn't go anywhere. You don't want to over tighten these things. You could bend the frame or something. You got to pull your second pin up here. And I just make sure this is tight so that doesn't slide out on me. And for right now, we'll set it up here. The next thing I'm going to do is pull the light and brake cable and power cable out of the truck to the trailer. I just stow it up here with one of these twist tie things. I'll bring you in a little closer so you can see that a little better. Then of course we have to unlock our trailer tongue lock here. Next thing we have to undo here is our emergency trailer brake cable. And this is probably not approved. It is a climbing carabiner. I think that'll be enough to yank that out in emergency without bending it or ripping it open. These things are pretty strong. I use one of those. Just a lot easier. You should probably use a steel one with a twist nut on there, but that works. And before I undo the chains, I'm going to get the front of this thing down in its little cup down here. And I know some people like the electric jacks, but this thing's so small and light, I don't even think it's needed. Okay, now we know our trailer isn't going to roll away on us. So we can unhook our chains. And the nice part about having this boondock rack with this model is I can just set everything right on there for now and lock her in here. And now we're gonna lift up on our tongue if it's not too tight, or trailer tongue lock. And we're gonna crank this trailer up and off of it. There we go. Sometimes it's a little difficult because this trailer is trying to slide in and the little fork that holds the ball is caught underneath. Always helps to have two people, somebody can push back on the trailer or rock it so you can open it up or something, but that works out fine. And I like to crank this up at least a couple inches, because if you're on some weird terrain and this truck just moves and happens to pitch, you'll catch your ball on your trailer and it'll pull the trailer on you, so you don't want to do that. Now we're going to fire up the truck and separate a little bit. I just like to roll forward about a foot or two. That way I can open my tailgate and get past that trailer tongue if I need to walk behind the truck and in between the trailer. And while we're at it, because somebody asked a couple days ago, how do I get this jack to clear the tailgate when the trailer and truck are connected? Well, it just worked out by happenstance. This tailgate, being the right length, has about 1 inch between here and this crank. And the only reason that happened or worked out was because my good buddy said I needed a tow hitch for my new trailer, and he gave me this thing. So this is adjustable. You can flip it that way, raise and lower everything. And I went out and refinished this and cleaned it up, made sure it was all good to go. But somehow this exact length ended up being absolutely perfect, that it wasn't too long and not too short, so I can open my tailgate when the trailer's hooked up. So next thing I want to do is I want to make sure my little level up here is level front to back now. So we're going to crank this down until that bubble is just about level there. And it's not absolute perfect, but it's a close enough. And how do I know this is exactly level? Well, I got this trailer perfectly level on level ground at one point. Used the level inside on my door and on my floor going side to side and front to back. And then I came up here and I set this on here and made sure it was close to where it needed to be. And then I stuck it on, so I know it's kind of almost true level. And if it isn't, this little cage here, you can kind of push up on it from underneath and bend it where you need it to be. Or you could just open your door and see if it stays straight out and doesn't flop back and forth. That's how you know the trailer's level front to back also. Now side to side, different story. So the next step I like to do after this is I'll take some of my blocks here, depending on the level. If the back's sitting up too high, I'll have to add a few, because I don't want those landing pads to come down and be like really extended. I want them just about right. And in this case, since we're perfectly flat, I just need to put one on each quarter, set them on. It's just kind of nice to have. So to make this work perfectly right, I went out and I bought this DeWalt drill that has a torque setting. You don't want to over crank down on these things. And I just happened to find this correct extension, and you need one of these that goes in a drill, so you can do that and lock it in. And then I just bought a cheap socket. It just happened to be a spark plug socket, but it was cheap and it worked out. So I'll start by hand first. I'll find my stabilizer jack bolt here, and I'll give it a crank down and very slowly start using the drill on slow speed. place my jacks in, keeping my hand out of the way, of course. Then I'll run them down just till it hits that torque setting and stops. And I'll do that in all four corners. I'll go back and I'll just give it a nice hand crank, make sure everything's snug and stable. We'll continue back on the inside here in a minute, but here's something weird I caught coming up. See these little rubber strips coming off? Those things just go right on the gray plastic trim edge. They really don't do anything. I guess they were there in case they rub, but I don't have a ladder or way to get up there right now, so I'm not gonna worry about it. And if they come off, they come off. You can find more of this stuff at a auto parts store if you have to. But yeah, both sides, kind of strange. I'm guessing that was probably due from those strange winds and head gusts coming up. I was getting like a weird, almost a flutter feeling coming by the truck and trailer. Oh well. All right, and you've probably seen me earlier stash the groceries in my refrigerator in the truck, and right now I'll just do a transfer. I usually do that when I'm on the road in case things are sloshing around or something. It'll stay contained in that one in the truck instead of like flowing out of here or something and messing the trailer up. Fridge looks kind of barren this trip. I got some dinner stuff. Of course, I got a little bit of beer here at that deli slash liquor store cigar shop. A couple drinks, and that's it. Easy peasy, very simple this trip. But I do want to add, once you get your gas turned on and you come over to your Aldi, if you have the 3020 model anyway, you need to make sure once you get up into the upper higher elevations, 3,000 feet and plus, you need to come in and hit these little mountains, and that's going to be high altitude mode. We're going to turn that on. I'm going to fire off that hot water. I want everything to warm up in here in case it does get too cold tonight. So what high altitude mode does, it's pretty neat. It's like a supercharger for your burner in your Aldi. What it does is it kicks on a fan inside that burner, and because you're at high altitude, the air is thinner. You need more oxygen to burn cleanly so you don't burn rich, which means you're using too much fuel. You'll get a sooty exhaust that way. That's also how you know if that fan's taking a crap on you. But what it does is blow some air in, creates a little more airflow and oxygen so everything burns clean. It does change the sound of this thing. Different elevations and stuff, man. It's kind of odd. This thing's a living creature, I swear. While we're at it, we'll check to see if our seams are holding up in here that I redid. I don't see any cracking. So we are good to go for a while, I think. That stuff dried up pretty nice. And I know many of you probably wanted to see me do a DIY Aldi glycol flush and change, but I don't have the time to hodgepodge a bunch of parts together. There is a guy on one of the tab pages that is making the little tubes and fittings that go down in that reservoir with a little pump, and he's selling them, but I think he was sold out on all those. So I don't have the time to do that right now, and it's going to be the first flush and change. So what I'm going to end up doing here in a few weeks, and I had to schedule this 6 weeks out, is I have to head about 3 hours up to Phoenix. There's a Truma tech there, and Truma can do the Aldis. So if you're in a bigger city or near a bigger city and you can find a Truma dealer or service guy, in our case, I think he's the only one in Arizona, you can look up Truma's number online, give them a call, and schedule an appointment if you don't know how to change that Aldi glycol, or you don't want to take on that job yourself. Now for this little 320, he quoted me at somewhere around 600 bucks. So that's not as bad as some of these dealers saying $800, $1,000, $1,200. So we'll see what that comes out to in the end. But as far as this trailer goes, I think it only uses about 2.5 gallons of glycol. But when they professionally flush this system, I'm going to guess they're going to drain everything. They're going to run distilled clean water through the system to flush everything out. Then they're going to run the glycol through, and they may even run extra glycol through. That way it's 100% clean and ready to go, and the new glycol is in the system and the air is bled out of the lines. I know you all wanted to see it. You'll have to wait a couple more years for that. But at least for this first one, I know it was done by the people that do it for a living, so sometimes it's easier to just pay somebody rather than your own time. Plus, by the time I bought enough glycol and I bought the supplies to do the job, I'm probably only saving about 300 bucks. Now, if the dealer was charging me $800,000, I'd be doing whatever I could to get that stuff out of there and cleaned out myself. But I think I'll go with it this one time and bite the bullet and have the professionals do the system. Oh, and one other quick RV hack, or whatever you may need it for. If you don't already know, the Viva brand paper towels, you can kind of leave like this and they don't unravel on you going down the road. They kind of like stick together on themselves. So that is awesome. And just like that, everything is set and ready to rock. Got the bed all done here on this half just to kick back and relax. And once again, because I only got a whole 4 hours of sleep, drove another 4.5, 5 hours, I'm going to take a little nap here and get up before dinner time. This getting older stuff is getting kind of weird. Seems like anything beyond a 4 or 5 hour tow, as soon as I get up here, I got to take a nap, man. But I'll tell you what, that's why I bought this thing. It's pretty awesome to be able to just take a nap, relax for a couple hours in peace. Get some much needed makeup sleep for sure. It's too bad some of these places I go aren't a little closer. Then it wouldn't be a problem. I could get up a little later and relax on my way up. But see you all in the afternoon. Well, that ended up being about 2.5 hours worth of a nap. Oh, man. It's late. It's like 4:45 now. Well, I really didn't miss much. It's been pretty windy. Some of these gusts rolling through have been pretty wild, man. This trailer starts moving a little bit. Oof. Almost lost the door. Oh yeah, that wind's definitely picking up. It's always cool being in the forest. You can actually watch where the wind goes. Kind of scary these giant trees move so much, but it's probably better they move than snap. I know I'm gonna sound like a total wuss here, but I need to get a thicker jacket on. I'm of a desert design, man. 50 in the day is cold. It's definitely beanie time. Just a nice, light, warm bean roast for the cold weather, hanging out in here chilling. It does feel pretty cozy in here. The lap of luxury, I'll tell you what. Cold is one thing, but windy and cold is another. Just wind in general I'm not a fan of. It's hard to cook outside. I mean, it's hard to relax out there when dirt's blowing around. Did a lot of years of sitting outside, freezing out there in the wind and cold and rain, so I think it's nice to take it easy for a change. Stay inside, relax, sit in the comforts of modern luxury in this little trailer while I look out the windows at what's going on outside. It really is a shame that it is as windy as it is, because I'd really enjoy sitting out there with some good wood and a fire right now. I guess it's always nice to have a little downtime, and it's always needed. Well, I'm gonna sit here and enjoy the golden hour with a coffee this time for once. And as soon as I finish this, I'll be getting dinner ready. And I already know all you out there really want to see somebody cook in a tiny trailer. I think it's funny. It's like one of the most asked questions is, how come you don't cook in your trailer? Well, that's why I bought a little trailer with a kitchen inside, is just for occasions like this. I typically like to cook outside to keep the smell and mess down, but it's going to work out just right today. Well, that kind of figures. Maybe I should have bought some wood anyway. Seems like the wind really calmed down. Well, either way, it's about dinner time. So the hardest part about cooking in a tiny trailer is trying to film yourself cooking in a tiny trailer. It's a little bit difficult because I have no room to really put this camera and get me and everything in the shot. But we're going to do our best. So we're going to do this as simple and easy as we can without a whole lot of splatter. Frozen pork fried rice. And always save your boxes because you can make a little mini trash can out of it. Set it down here on the floor. Or up here on the counter. Now you got somewhere to throw trash. So we're going to warm this up a little bit. I'm just going to keep it nice and low. Got to grease up this pan a bit. And always remember, make sure you lift your screens up so any heat doesn't melt your blinds or screens here. Also, not recommended, but if you want to warm this trailer up fast, make sure it's ventilated, of course. But you could turn a burner on here on low very carefully, and it'll warm this trailer up real quick. I mean, we probably could cook this even easier if I rang the generator and fired up the microwave. Got to kind of put things wherever you can, and that's why this sink grate thing comes in handy to give you a little extra counter space in here. But you're definitely limited for room, that is for sure. There's no doubt about that. I'm gonna add a little salt, pepper, and garlic to this. I already know that these really do need it. And if you want a really compact way to keep your spices, this GSI Spice Missile, I think it is. They have a Spice Rocket. I don't know which one's which. One's smaller, this one's the larger one. You can separate this into multiple spices. And it has different tops on it too. A little bigger hole for the pepper. And fine holes for like the garlic and salt. And the way to keep mess down, make sure everything stays right over what you're cooking. Of course, if I had a lid that fit this, it'd probably help out with any kind of splatter or mess anyway, but I'm not too worried about it with the pork fried rice here. You can see how nice that flame is right there. I mean, you can really get that down to like nothing. Check that out. And that's about, oh, we lost it. And that's about high. Now I run it right around about that. That's all you need. And of course, always make sure your window here is on vent mode. That way, when you have your roof vent on, it'll pull some of that air out and across the stove and up the vent. A little tip on these instant fried rice, or probably any fried rice. If you mound it all up in there like that, it helps cook it because it's cooking through that whole mound and steaming everything up at the same time. But of course you want to keep stirring and flipping. Looks like it's browning up very nicely. Bottom to the top, and the top back down to the bottom. And our rice is about done and browned up here. I always like to add a little bit of chili oil. And you only need a little bit of this stuff here, because it'll burn you up and you'll be paying for that tomorrow, trust me. You can put this stuff right over your meal, or you can use it to fry up in there. It's pretty good stuff. And then to make it all fancy schmancy, Tab Gourmet, and a little bit of these toasted sesame seeds. And I love these things. I forgot what the black toasted seeds are, but those are really good too. Not too bad. And it's even easier to cook in a tiny trailer when it's just you yourself and you're eating out of one pan. Way less cleanup. It actually came out pretty good. That little bit of extra spice and stuff really helps that out. Now it tastes like more like authentic but leftover pork fried rice. Check this out. You're watching me cook and eat dinner while I'm watching me cook and eat dinner at the same time. Welcome to the multiverse. Man, I love this little trailer, I'll tell you what. But I'm not trying to sell anybody on this thing. You got to go check one out for yourself and decide. But for a single person like me, all this stuff in here, this is like the ultimate camping. But for right now, I'm going to not watch myself, find something else on YouTube to watch, finish up my dinner, and then I'm going to wash my dish in the sink. Because I think I had a couple people ask me if they could see me washing dishes in the sink. All right. All right, because a couple people wanted to see me actually doing dishes in the tiny sink. We're going to do this dish. And I'm going to do it the way I would normally do it, okay? You can do whatever you want to do. You want to dump all your food and junk down that drain into your tank and wash it out, that's up to you. But to keep things a little nicer, it's the same thing I would do if I was tent camping. I'm going to wipe everything off. I'm going to try to get as much food and grease out of everything as I can just by wiping it out. But the benefit is I have hot running water in this trailer, so that's going to help me out. I don't have to heat it up. Take my trash and use my makeshift trash can, which is holding my dirty spatula and spoon for the moment. I got to clean that too. I'm going to run a little bit of hot water here. A little soap. I'm going to let that soak a second. And because I don't have a sponge right now in the trailer, this is what I typically do anyway. It's just so much easier. Grab a paper towel and scrub everything down. Trick here is going to be moving my wash pan to the side while I give this a rinse off. Maybe we'll wash right over here instead. Alright, we got our spatula all washed up, and we're going to rinse it off. And it's nice having this grate here because it makes for a perfect drying rack while you rinse. There is a little sink strainer stopper that is in there if you want to block any food from going down the drain anyway. But this works out perfectly because I forgot. I'm not done cooking yet. I'm going to rinse her off one more time here. And lay her pan right over top and let her dry off. Easy as that. I mean, it's kind of hard to do, If you had a bunch of dishes, you'd probably just do them right in the sink, I guess. But I don't know how much cooking you really want to do in this thing, but that's good enough for me anyway. And I almost forgot, I picked up some chocolate chip cookies. I don't know how well this is going to work out over a stove, but I think if we can get this to cook low and slow enough, it might work out pretty good. Just going to break off a chunk. It looks like there's 4 here. So we're going to do that. And I think what we're going to have to do is let these warm up and melt out and flip them like pancakes or something. It looks like they're slowly turning into cookies here. If these don't burn on one side, this is going to be amazing. Still feel a little soft. Yeah, they're too soft. Darn. Well, the cookie idea didn't work out too well. I'm just going to mash this all into one cookie and hope it works out. Oh, maybe. Oh, that side doesn't look too bad. Oh, nice. Let's see if I can get it off onto a paper towel here. So, yeah, not too bad. Could be better. Maybe take a lot more time or use an actual oven. That's funny. Chocolate chip cookie in a pan. All right, let's see how this tastes. It tastes excellent. Oddly enough, if you ever had Cookie Crisp cereal, that's what that tastes like. Wow. I don't know if I recommend that, but not bad. Let's take a little look outside. And them stars are bright. That wind is definitely weird today. It slowed down for a bit, and it's just gusting on and off. It's definitely cold out there. And it's nice to be in here, especially for days like this. I don't really like glamping all the time. I like to be out doing things. But on days like this, I am really glad I got this thing. That wind out there, man, it just cuts right through you, and it's brutal. So for the rest of the night, I'm just going to kick back and relax. Watch a movie. Wait for my cookie to cool off. And then call it a night. I don't know what's planned for tomorrow. Who knows? It's all weather dependent now, so we'll see what happens. Hopefully we get to do something fun. See you all in the AM.
Think of all the possibilities that parallel worlds offer us. I mean, some worlds are going to be extremely different to ours. There'll be universes where there's no life. There'll be universes where there'll be no Earth or no solar system. There'll be universes where there would be people just like us.
Torture. I just hate exercise.
So no French toast for you then, huh?
Well, I just woke up. It's about 6:30. I heard a very weird tapping, creakling sound all over this trailer. And I think I've heard that sound one other time. It's not typical. It's very weird for me. Go outside and take a look. Oh, it's brisk. Some strange little round white things coming down. I'm not sure what that is. Does anybody know what that is? I've never seen that before. I take that back. I'm having flashbacks of one other time. I got frozen into the back of my truck here when I was sleeping into it one time. I had a freezing rain land, but I'm guessing this is snow. It feels a little more like an ice. Or is that technically like a sleet? I have no idea. I'm from the desert. I'm dead serious on that. I have never seen snow falling. One time I woke up here and there was a very light skim of what looked like a white powdery dust. I mean, if it's gonna be cold, it better snow so I can see this for once. I'm just messing around. That has to be snow. Wow, that's cool. It's like a hard kind of snow though, I think. But I would say those clouds definitely look a lot different to me, so I'm guessing that's snow. Now here's what's weird, me being up here. I'm out here with just a nice kind of fake wool jacket and a beanie. There's a little bit of this light snow coming down, and I feel warmer now than I did yesterday when it was 50. It's 29 or 32 degrees right now. Yeah, these clouds are moving quick. You can actually watch them. Alright, it is a bit chilly. I had to come back inside, plus I'm making coffee right now. Just a nice, simple, easy breakfast of cinnamon bun granola and some coffee. Exactly what's needed on a day like that. On my battery, I have a Victron Smart Sense monitor that monitors the temperature at the battery so it can communicate with the solar chargers and whatnot so it doesn't charge at a freezing temp. Now it's outside in the battery box on the front of this trailer tongue box, and it's reading about 38 degrees in there. So that's good to know that that battery is staying a little warmer than I thought it would at this temperature. The weather in this area is claiming it is 29, and we're going to get up to a whole high of 38, and it's going to cool back down into the upper 20s, but that's going to be the whole day. So I don't know if I should be real worried about this plumbing in this thing or not. Kind of a trip, because that is literally the temperature of my refrigerator right now. So I don't know if I should take some MacGyver-ish preemptive procedures here, maybe midday to late day, and try to see if I can put some kind of warming pads on the valves on this thing, and then maybe run my buddy heater outside with a little fan blowing under the trailer to keep it a little warmer. I don't know if that'll work or if it is needed, since really I'm only here 2 days and the temperatures aren't going to sustain lower than freezing for that whole time. So I don't know. I'm going to crack some valves here in a little while, make sure water's flowing out and that, make sure everything's okay. But we'll see how that goes. All right, I'm going to do a little drain valve test here just to make sure we're flowing. Okay. Well, that moved. That moved too, so we're good there. Let's check the fresh. And we're good. Yeah, water's cold, but it's not bad. But this strange white stuff keeps coming down. How cool is that? First time seeing snow fall. So strange. I don't know what this stuff is, guys. Cool. That is so neat. Everybody that comes from snow probably hates it, but this is unique for me. All right, house is all shut down here. I'm gonna head into town, and I had a request to hit a candy shop and pick up some caramel corn for a friend, and of course grab some lunch. Was hoping to do some RC rock crawling today, but I don't think that's gonna happen with the weather. On and off, little snow flurries, plus cold rocks aren't fun to play around on. The tires aren't warm enough to get grip. Definitely got some strange weather coming in. You ever been to a place that seemed oddly familiar? Like you've seen it before or been there? Reminds me of that one movie where that one guy with that hat said something about taking his foot and putting it on the other side of that guy's face. Kind of strange. Hello. All right, we got all the goods in the contraband. All kinds of flavors of caramel corn here. That's pretty cool. A whole village of Airstreams turned into little hotel rooms. Still a fair amount of campers here, but it has cleared out on a Monday. But I want to explain this crazy backup job I had to do with that trailer earlier. So you have to come down this road, and the only way to do this is you have to cut up here right and then start backing in over to the spot. Many of these older campgrounds weren't designed with trailers in mind. All right, I decided to come back to camp. It's pretty chilly today. I got up to a whole 37, and we're getting some cloudage in here. I'm kind of hoping maybe I'll see some snow again, but I doubt it. It's been a pretty dry winter. Every once in a while there'll be a little flurry. But what I need to do is warm this trailer back up. And it stayed fairly warm in here while I was gone. For safety reasons, I always like to turn off the heater and the gas. So we're going to get this thing warmed up. Not too bad. It held at 62 in here from 75. And I've been gone about 4 hours, so not too bad with a 35-ish degree outside temperature. I also need to do a couple camp chores here just to ensure I have heat tonight. Number one, I got to change over my propane cylinder. And number two, I'm going to charge this trailer just a little bit. I'm not getting much sun here today. So what I'm doing here, this is my other method of charging, because I didn't want to bring the generator this trip. The Tacoma has an AC port back here that runs up to about 400 watts, and it's just enough to do this. So I can leave the truck running for about, I don't know, 15-20 minutes here. Just want to make sure we were topped up on battery power for tonight. And I take my little Victron IP65 charger here that's 12 volt 15 amp, and I plug it right on to the pigtail for the battery. And we come inside and we hit our inverter and turn it on. The Tacoma will only run at 400 watts while the truck is idled and stopped. It won't run the full power. You can actually hear the truck's idle kicked up to be able to power that 400 watt inverter. It won't run at full 400 while you're driving, unfortunately. Your alternator kind of needs to take that power and power your truck engine and fire your spark plugs. So I'm just going to let this charge for a little bit here. It is getting cold. I'm getting a little bit of snow flurry coming down. Well, it was a pretty good idea that I started charging this trailer battery up at the warmest part of the day. I probably would have been fine for at least a whole other day until I left with what was left in that battery, which was around 60% or so. But I had noticed something weird. I wasn't getting indication that my solar charger for the trailer was even charging. For a second, I kind of panicked and thought I lost a connection, or maybe my solar charger took a crap, or my panel. So I checked my battery app. Now this is a SunGold power battery, and it's heated with Bluetooth. It has a little heating pad inside. And when I checked that app, I found out that the heater was triggered from my Victron charger that's hooked up to the truck. The Victron charger that's hooked up to the truck does not read the temperature setting on that little Victron Smart Sense, unfortunately. It's the only thing that doesn't link. So it didn't know to not charge. So this has been a good experiment. What that tells me is the battery's management system, BMS, had limited the state of charge coming in. It protected the battery because the battery was down to like, I think 34 degrees. And you don't want to charge lithium at really cold temperatures like that. That's how you damage them. And then I noticed that it said heater on. So the battery kicked its own heater on. So that meant that worked. And then I checked it again. It said heater off. And I noticed my solar on the roof kicked in. And then I remembered, oh yeah, that's right. I have my solar charge controller set to stop charging at about 40 degrees. So that worked out right. So the interesting thing to note here is it's up to about 35 to 37 degrees outside. That little warming pad inside that battery brought that battery up from about 34 degrees or so and warmed it up to charging temp, which is about 41, I think, or 40 degrees, in about 25 to 30 minutes. So I'm going to put up the stats of what was going on here from the screenshots I took of my apps for the battery and for the Victron solar charge controller. And you'll see in the first screenshot that the battery app had limited how much amperage it was getting. And then after it warmed up, it kicked it up to about 20 amps with the combined solar on the roof and the charger that's hooked up to the truck right now. But pretty cool. I've been waiting for like over a year to see if that actually worked in cold temperature, to where that BMS shuts down that charging state and then that heating pad kicks on. So I am very glad I got a battery with a heater built into it. Now, you don't always need that. If your batteries are inside, the inside of your trailer is warm, you're probably going to be fine. Unless you like staying in it and sleeping in it at 40 degrees. But for those of you that need a trailer battery that's going to be outside in a battery box, it may be a good idea to find a lithium battery that has a heater built into it. Or you can get small strips of heating pad heater and wire that up and figure out that on your own. But very cool. I almost pulled the trigger on a new lithium battery from Lithium that's 165 amp hours. And that would put me in my perfect Goldilocks zone. It would fit in that battery box. It gives me a little over half the amount of power more than what my 100 amp hour battery is. That means I can indefinitely, even if I didn't have solar, probably run 3 days straight running a fridge and everything else in this, no problem, without charging. But I wouldn't have had a heater to kick on right now to start charging that battery if I really needed to charge it. All right, it's beer 30. I had a buddy that reminded me that anytime I pick up one of these unique beers, then I should do a beer review on them. Pretty wild looking can. This is a Axe Brews Vengeance double hopped, double hazy IPA. 8%. So let's give this a go. And kind of interesting enough, I couldn't find any unique, interesting beers when I was on the last trip in Nevada. This one here is made in Nevada, so that's pretty cool. Let's see how she tastes. Ooh, that's a strong one there, bud. Wow. I'm no professional beer connoisseur when it comes to this stuff, but I usually pick up IPAs or whatever's unique in the area. Now, my tastes are different than everybody else's, so you may like it, you may not like it. This one's a little harsh. It's got a definite punch to it. Slight, very slight citrusy taste, but ooh, man, that just tastes thick. Thick. Yeah, that's got a good amount of hop to it. Probably up there on the 7 out of 10 scale when it comes to a harsher IPA, that's for sure. That's the only way I can put that. I have had worse. I'm going to try to finish this one up, see how that goes, maybe crack a second. That's all I'll need. And then it's dinner time. Go for a little campground booze cruise. This whole section up here is closed off for the winter time. During the summer it opens up. So you can see what I'm saying about older campgrounds. You have to come in this direction. And if you did have any kind of RV, that'd put your door on the opposite side. This side here is kind of a cool sight. Some of these older ones, pretty neat. They're little rock terraces. That'd be pretty cool. Somewhere down this road, back in here, there's a whole other massive loop. And it looks like sites similar to this. They're supposed to redo it, but they haven't done it. At least as long as I've been coming up here. It's kind of a shame. Some of them are pretty neat. They have like rock stacked fire pits and stuff. Looks really rustic. I would say these are more tent based in a way because you don't have much room to have a pull out to park a trailer or something. I'll tell you what, it is chilly, man. The weatherman said possible rain. I'm thinking that might be snow. We'll see. I've actually stayed at this site before. Kind of a weird one. You just park on the side of the road and walk all the way down there. Set up your tent maybe. I think right now all the water is turned off for the winter. It's also kind of a neat one, but you got to walk all the way down to your site. But you get your own kind of like overlook of the highway down there. This here is like a ghost site. And one year I had a reserved spot and somebody was in it and they said if I had to I could stay down here. But there is no path or anything. It's kind of strange. At this point I've stayed at almost all of these sites in this campground, except for a few. Some of the ones I would call not so good. Another kind of odd spot, you just have to park right here and set up down there somehow. This is kind of one I would say really isn't good because you park here and you're camped here and your next camp neighbor is right there, all out in the middle exposed. This is kind of an interesting spot too. Pretty neat, and right next to the bathroom house up here. And our spots are right here. Every once in a while there'll be a snow flurry or two. Alright, I'm heading back inside where it's warm. It's time for dinner. Beer update. Once I got past all the harshness and skunkiness of the first one, it was alright. We're going to go for round 2. And that should be about it. Getting a little bit of snow in. Alright, time for tonight's dinner. We're going to keep this short and simple because this video has ran way too long as usual. We're going to do this beef dip in a jalapeno cheese bread I found. I got to say that brand of Sliced roast beef looks pretty good. I got our jalapeno cheese bread here, ready to roll. Whatever fell off went inside. I added a little salt, pepper, and garlic. It probably needs it anyway. And we're just gonna kind of build a roast beef muffle out of here out of jalapeno cheese bread. And what I'm gonna do here is I just really need to warm this up. And I'm gonna get that juice to thicken up a little bit here. Easy peasy. You'll have to excuse the way I'm talking. I'm a little impaired after those two beers. They're a little harsh. But the snow is coming down in bigger chunks. I don't know if that's a normal thing. They look like more like pieces of feathers or pillow filling. I've never experienced this, so it's kind of a trip. But this smells pretty good. I just keep rolling it here. I'm just trying to reduce the liquid. And for those that don't know what reducing liquid means is, you pretty much just keep rolling your food around until that liquid evaporates and turns into a gravy or thickens. But that is steaming the trailer up today. I'll tell you what. If I were a bear, I would totally tear this trailer to shreds after smelling this stuff in here. There's a lot of steam coming off of this thing. All that steam in there is the reason why I don't like cooking inside all the time unless I have to. Like situations like this, which is nice. Because all this steam and grease and flavor is going to be stuck anywhere it lands in here. Now I keep my trailer clean, but still, I already know. Alright, I think we're just about ready here. All that liquid is dried up. Everything's good to go. I'm going to shut this burner off. And we're going to pile it in the jalapeno cheese bread. Alright, let's load it up. I am definitely a meatosaurus, I'll tell you what. Other than the bread here, I typically don't eat that many carbs. Sometimes I like some chips and fries on the side, but I try my best to eat a lot of protein. So we're just gonna need about all of this for protein. 2 carb ratio. Now we just mash this thing together. Massive roast beef sandwich. Look at that. We're going to sit here and eat this beautiful roast beef sandwich while watching the snow come down. That is so good. I'll tell you what, that came out absolutely excellent. But I'm going to give you my view while I'm eating dinner. This is one of those trips where I was getting a little bummed out. I didn't get to go hike, or I didn't get to go rock crawl. But the fact the snow came in, and I'm serious on this, I've been waiting years to be able to camp at just the right time to have snow come in. Not be too crazy that the roads are full of ice and all that stuff. But it's nice enough to experience snow, get in camp, and leave in the morning when it's clear. And I'll tell you what, that roast beef sandwich right there, excellent. Still got a little light left. I'm going to run out here and take the trash out. And everybody's going to think this is stupid again, but I have never been in snow, or at least falling snow. This is awesome. It's actually starting to accumulate too. That is pretty cool. That's a new experience for me. And again, I find it weird that I'm not freezing while it's snowing. Very strange stuff. That's what I'm telling everybody. When you're out in the desert and it's maybe 40, it feels colder than it does right now when it's snowing. It's kind of strange. Makes no sense. I mean, if I had a fire going and I had my hoodie up, I could sit out here. I can't say my exact age, but I'm at half-life, and this is the first time I've been in snow. We'll do the snow princess thing. That is cool. Yeah, it's actually starting to stick around a little bit here. If I make it out of this without the pipes freezing in that trailer, I will be one happy camper for sure. I'll give my 2 thumbs up on approval for that trailer. There is one downfall though I just thought of and remembered. Snow melts, and now my jacket's all soaked. The other weird thing I noticed, and I totally forgot about, is I'm a little slow at my speech right now. I only had 2 of those beers. Now, they were higher gravity beers, but I totally forgot that altitude affects the alcohol level there. So that probably made it the equivalent of maybe 4 beers. Well, I know this video's already ran over an hour, and that's kind of long, so I'm going to end that here. And the snow has finally stopped falling. Although not a terribly exciting camping trip or adventure, it was still a great weekend, and proof when things seem a little boring and off that they can turn out pretty good at the end. Like the fact I finally got to see snow falling while I was out camping. I mean, I have camped and there was some snow that was there before me, or when I had woken up, there was some light powder that was just kind of dusted on everything, but it wasn't that exciting. So that made this trip pretty awesome and kind of special. I know you all are probably thinking it's pretty crazy that somebody hasn't seen snow, especially those of you that live in the north or the east. You can say I don't get out much. Although I do, I just haven't been out far enough north or east to experience snow. Alright, well, it's time to end this video here. I'm sure I've bored enough of you, and those that made it to the end, I commend you for hanging in there. You guys are awesome. I'm not sure where I'm going to be going in the next adventure. It should be in a couple weeks as usual. Probably back to the same location, maybe doing something else. I'm not sure of that yet. That all depends on our weird weather right now, bouncing up and down like a roller coaster. And who knows, if this plumbing doesn't burst from freezing on this trailer by tomorrow morning, maybe we'll go tabbing in Antarctica. Thank you all for watching, liking, and commenting. It's much appreciated. God bless. See you in the next adventure.